SB Man is back.
Oh, okay, boys. Oh my gosh, the red got messed up. This is a 5 out of freaking 5.
It is beat making time.
Next week is E3 week. My album comes out next week.
I have the leopard. You know what I'm saying? It's true. You know what I'm saying? But oh, look at that! Oh my God!
This is your boy.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube citizens, y'all know who this is. This is your boy Dash and True Inferno. Back at it with another Kingdom Hearts 3 commentary gameplay for you guys. So the time has arrived. It is football season. And we're going to kick things off this weekend with the college football regular season. Next week is the pros. So I will do my predictions for that next week. But this week rather, we are focusing on college football. So let's just get straight into it because there's a lot I gotta cover. So we're gonna start off with the ACC. That, you know, the American Coastal Conference, or whatever they call themselves nowadays. I don't know. There's the AAC, then there's the AAC. It's confusing, but whatever. So the defending national champions reside in this conference, and to be more specific, they reside within the Atlantic Division within this conference, and they're the obvious pick to win the division. Nobody else in that division is close. Like, without question, Clemson will have really the majority of their starters coming back on offense. If memory serves it correctly, I believe there's like a little bit of a drop on defense. I could be wrong on that. But either way, it's Clemson. Clemson going to the ACC Conference Championship game. Now, who would they face? It's Virginia. Virginia from the Coastal Division. And it's really mostly by default. Because look at the other two teams that could do something. And I'm talking about Miami. There's a lot of unknowns there, and they bringing in a red shirt freshman at QB. So that's their starting QB. Not a good way to contend for the division. And then we look at Virginia Tech. So their defense to improve, but they got to travel to play against Virginia in that in-state rivalry. So they would be considered the road team there. But either way, I'm still rolling with Virginia to go to the ACC Conference Championship game and lose to Clemson. So once again, I got Clemson winning the ACC. Now, let's get to the conference that matters, the Big Ten. That's what I'm talking about. And we're going to start off with the Big Ten East, the East Division right here. And I got Michigan winning this division. So, this got to be the year. This has got to be the year. Because let's look at this. Michigan got a new offensive coordinator, the dude named Josh Gaddis, how you pronounce his name? And he's the offensive coordinator that came from Alabama. And we all know how good Alabama is, unfortunately. And we all know how good Alabama's offense has been, unfortunately. But yeah, so by Michigan bringing that guy in and changing up the offense, and the quarterback, Patterson, is familiar with that offense. Yeah, I'm expecting big things from the offense. Now, yes, they did lose, some key starters defensively, but with their defensive coordinator, who is obviously no joke, I'm not expecting that big of a drop-off. So Michigan are my pick to win the East. So they probably win it, but wait a minute. What about the other teams? What about Ohio State? What about Penn State? What about Michigan State? Well, let's take a look at it. Well, first off, Penn State, Michigan State. Yeah, Penn State been good for the last few years, but no, I don't see them winning this division. And Michigan State, at times they've been on again and they'll be off again. And this year they'll be off again. So it's all about Ohio State in terms of competing for the division. Now, Urban Meyer retired. So there's no Urban Meyer. And they got a new starting quarterback. And they're only returning 4 starters on offense. Now, their defense should be better from last year. But the problem is their defense sucked last year, really. They were struggling last year. So that's not saying much either. So, and Ohio State comes here to Ann Arbor. Well, not literally here. I'm in Detroit. But you get the point. Detroit and Auburn, they're both in the same state of Michigan. And Ohio State, when they play against Michigan, they have to come up here. There's no way that Ohio State is beating Michigan with all of those factors into play. It's not happening. I got Michigan winning the division. Now let's look at the Big Ten West. Nebraska, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Iowa. It's a tough one, but I'm going to roll with Nebraska because they get those other 3 teams that I mentioned at home. Wisconsin got to play Michigan State, Ohio State, and Michigan. That's tough. In Iowa, they have a lot of pieces to replace, and I don't like Northwestern chance either. So it'd be Michigan beating Nebraska in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. Now let's move on to the Big 12. So this is going to be interesting. Oklahoma. Now last year you could say Oklahoma had arguably the best offense ever. Last year, even though they didn't win the national championship, but they did have a Heisman winner in their quarterback Kyler Murray. Well, guess what? He's gone. Their leading wide receiver Marquise Brown, he's gone too, and they will lose 4 of their offensive linemen. I'm assuming they're all gone because of the draft and things of that nature. So here's the shining hope for the offense though. They bringing in transfer QB Jalen Hurts, who was from Alabama, and he did put on a good showing while he was in Alabama, so that helps. The defense could be better, but the problem is, I talk about how horrible offense Ohio State was last year. No. Oklahoma's defense last year was terrible. I said offensive defense for Ohio State. I meant defense for Ohio State last year, but Oklahoma's defense was like arguably the worst. So to say, oh, the defense could be getting better, that's really not saying much about Oklahoma's defense. So it's going to be interesting to see, can this offense, which will not be as good as last year, carry the load again? Then we got to look at Texas. 2 starters returns on defense, so the defense will be bland, but the offense will be strong with the quarterback and their leading wide receiver coming back. But they got road trips to TCU and Iowa State, and they got to play against LSU, who are currently ranked 6th in the coaches poll. So I want to say, I want Texas to win because I'm sick and tired of Oklahoma winning the big, or at least TCU. But no, I have to worry Oklahoma. And then of course, some people may say, what about Iowa State? Well, they bringing in their freshman, like one of their best freshman players in terms of their quarterback, Brock Purdy. So this would be his sophomore year. He could make some noise. But they got home games against Texas, TCU, and Oklahoma State, which is good. But they got a road game against Oklahoma, which is not good. So, again, unfortunately, for the Big 12, I'm going with Oklahoma. Now, let's move on to the Pac-12. And we're going to start off with the North. So, Oregon is my pick here because their offense returns. They got 7 defensive starters returning, but they got a new defensive coordinator, which will be interesting. But they got to play against Auburn and Texas. So that could go either way, but I still like Oregon winning the North. Now in the South, it's a tough one. It's really between Utah and USC, but I'm going to roll with Utah slightly over USC. And in the Pac-12 Conference Championship game, I got Oregon over Utah. And then we got, lastly, in terms of conferences, that is, the SEC. So in the SEC East, we got Georgia, basically Georgia and Florida here. Georgia got Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Florida. They got some starters returning on both sides of the ball, so expect them to be not in the mix, not just for I think they're gonna win the division, but not just for the conference, but to actually make a playoff berth, get a playoff berth rather. Florida have a shot, but I really don't like their chances like that. And then we move to the SEC West. I would like LSU to win the rest, so Alabama won't do it. Cause I'm sick and tired. I'm talking about me being sick and tired of Oklahoma winning the Big 12. I'm really sick and tired of Alabama. I am sick and tired of Alabama constantly winning the division, constantly winning the conference, constantly going to the playoff, and constantly winning the. It's annoying. It's getting old, and it needs to stop. So, but the problem is that offense is going to be dope as heck, and they returning 7 defensive starters. It's hard to go against Alabama, even with LSU. LSU have a shot against Bama. Same with Auburn and Texas A&M, but it's Alabama, unfortunately. Now, let's look at the team that's not in any conference in terms of football, that is, and that's Notre Dame. They got road games against Georgia, Michigan, Stanford, and I believe I saw they have a road game against Army or Navy, one of those two. And that were, aside from the Army, Navy, I forgot which one. I don't know if it hurt their chances that much, but I did need to mention it. But road games against Georgia, Michigan, Stanford, that will hurt their chances. So I don't expect Notre Dame to do anything in terms of getting in the playoff, anything like that. So who do I got going into the playoffs? Well, I got Clemson with the #1 berth. Alabama, unfortunately, get the #2 berth. Michigan get that #3 berth. And Georgia get that #4 berth. That's another thing I'm sick and tired of. 2 SEC teams making the playoffs. Who I got playing for the national championship? It's another rematch between Clemson and Alabama. But I got Clemson winning it all again this year. Even though Alabama would be more motivated because it would be a revenge game for them. Or for the players who are still there from last year. I still got Clemson winning it all once again, but at least Michigan make the playoffs and win the Big Ten finally and beat Ohio State. So that at this point in time, all that matters. If they do good in the playoffs, that's a bonus for me. So that's it for my college football predictions, and I can't wait for the first game this weekend. And I'm going to call it a wrap. So with that said, y'all know who this is. This is boy the new Jay Gatsby, a.k.a. the new Stephen A. Smith, saying peace out, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Yeah.